Today we are going to study various theories on urban land use. Now basically this urban land use theories, this can also be termed as urban morphology. Now today we are going to study a few of the theories, and next day we will see some other theories. Now the question is, why should we learn about this? Why should we study about these various land use theories? What can we gain through them? What is the requirement? See, when we study the various urban land use, we actually try to understand the various land use patterns of any particular city or an urban area, or what is the general pattern of urban areas. We also try to understand the changes that occurs in an urban area. And also because a city or an urban area has got various functionality. So, and there are various pockets which has various kinds of functions. So through these theories, we try to understand the various functionality within a city. So today we are going to study three key theories. The first one is concentric zone theory, which is given by Burgess. The second one is called the sector model, given by Hoyt. And the third one is multiple nuclei theory, given by Harris and Ullman. There are other theories also, but today we are going to study these three basic theories. Now about concentric zone model, a concentric zone theory. Now this theory, this model was proposed by this person who is known as Ernest Burgess, and it was proposed in 1925. And this developed between 1925 and 29. And Burgess, he had based his study on urban land use pattern of Chicago city. Chicago is in US. Now, since this concentric zone model was propounded by Burgess, so this is also known as the Burgess model. Now, as you are seeing over here, there are various circles over here, which goes by the name of A, B, C, D, E, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this model is called concentric zone model because see over here, the various locations, they are defined in the form of what? These are all rings, concentric rings. So the various locations are defined in the form of these rings, in the form of various rings, which come out from where? Which are surrounding this core area. This is the center point, is the core area. So these rings are around this core area. So the city grows around the core area. The city is growing outward around the core area A. And as you are seeing in this diagram over here, there are a number of types of houses. So each represents something. What it represents or why it represents, that we will see later. But just you can see over here, this one, you can see the tallest structure is situated in the core area. Then you can see in the B zone, you can see factory-like structures. And then you can see small houses, bigger houses, and very big houses, bungalow-type spacious houses with greenery you can see in the last zone. So we will see what is what. Now, as you can see in this diagram, these are the 5 cross sections, and it goes by the name of, the first one is the Central Business District or CBD, then is the zone of transition, then workers' home or low income groups houses, then is the middle income group or the zone of better residences, and last we have the commuter zone. These zones were given by Burgess. Now, as you can see from this diagram over here, in the core area, that is the CBD area, you can see very tall buildings, and they don't have the interspacing is almost nil. There is no interspacing. Very dense you can see over here, and very tall buildings. Next on this zone you can see not so tall, but then nevertheless these are also multi-storied, and there is not so dense but denser than this zone over here, the next zone over here. After that you can see the interspacing is much more. It is lesser in height than the previous zone, but more in height than the next zone. And then you can see this zone, it has got spaces in between and also houses. But the most spacious, you can see the outer zone, which has got very big houses, and there are a lot of greenery, there is a lot of space in between. So this is in very gist. But now let us see what is about this CBD zone. What is the CBD zone, Central Business District Zone? Now this zone, as you have seen in the diagram before, it is located in the innermost side of the center. So because this is the most important zone of a city, it is located at the center. This is the oldest, and most of the transactions, most of the commercial activities are found in this zone. This zone, because it is the oldest, so this zone is the most important zone for the society, for that area, for that urban area. Because it is the most important zone, so it is the most sought after zone. Because it is the most sought after zone, it is the most important zone, and it is not a very spread out zone. You had seen in the map, in the diagram, it is a very limited area it has. So it has got the highest land value. Now, because it is the most important zone, thus it is it is in the innermost zone. This is the centermost zone. So what happens? It is in the heart of the city. Since it is in the heart of the city, it is most important zone. So what happens? It is very much accessible. This zone is very much accessible. It can be accessed through any part of the city, and it has got very good transport network. That transport network may be in the form of roadways, railways, etc., whatever ways, but it has got very important. The transport network is very well developed in this place, and it is also very well accessible through the rest of the areas. Now, since it is the most important, since it is ideal area, so what happens? It is very good for commercial activities. Now you can see over here, it is written as tertiary. This zone has tertiary activities. Now, as you people might be knowing, that we have got basically three types of activities. That is the primary activity, the secondary activity, and the tertiary activity. Now, the question is, you must all know what is tertiary activity, that why not secondary activity? Of course, we can't have primary activity over here. Agriculture is out of question in the heart of the city. So, but then why can't we have a secondary activity? So, what is a secondary activity? Secondary activities are manufacturing. So, manufacturing, that is factories, they require a huge area. For any factory, they require a huge area. So, entrepreneurs, it won't be possible for them to occupy huge areas of land in the heart of the city because of high land value in those regions. And also, that won't give them maximum economic return. See this term, maximum economic return. But if, on the other hand, they can have a small shop, they can have retail shop, they can have commercial spaces, they can have various kinds of commercial activities. So those commercial activities, commercial places, tertiary activities like trade and commerce, they don't require a huge area. That can be operated from offices. And that also commercial activities, retail shops, etc. also yields better return, better economic return than the manufacturing industries. So these regions, these places, they have to employ the largest area, largest possible area through whatever they have. So they have small spaces, they have to utilize the small spaces. So they go for what? They go for high-rise buildings. So in high-rise buildings, they can have various kinds of trade and commerce offices. So these are ideal for commercial activities. These places are ideal for commercial activities. Why these are good for commercial activities? Because I have told you, since it is very important place, since it is the heart of the city, since it has got very good transportation network, so they are ideal for various commercial activities or tertiary activities. Why? Because any employer, he would obviously want his employees, or he would obviously want to develop his establishment in such an area, where what happens, his employees can easily come, over here. So it is easily accessible by his employees to come over into this place through various modes of transportation. Now, this since we have all these things, we have got very good transportation network. It is very much important, and we have got various over here various offices. That means when we have got various offices, etc., so that means what? The income level would also be more. Now when we have very good income level, then what would happen? This area would also be very good for various shopping malls, various markets, etc., because we are having people over here, we are having people with high spending power. But over here, we will have negligible residential areas, negligible residential activities over here. Why negligible? Because this place will be so, the land price will be so much that it cannot be affordable for the residential sector. Now, after that, we have the transition zone. So, in short, if we can say about the CBD, it is a non-residential center for business, the previous one. Now we have the transition zone, that is the zone 2. Now this place has got dilapidated houses, and this is a mixed area of residences and commercial activities. You can find light manufacturing, warehouses, etc. in this zone. Now, this place, once it was a residential pocket. But when the city was growing, then what happened? This became a transition zone, and the people who belonged to the HIG and the MIG group, and those people who could afford, moved out of this zone. Why? Because there were various kinds of commercial activities, various factories were established in this zone. So there were too much of chaos, too much of pollution, too much of environmental degradation, too much of high pressure, population pressure. Because generally what happens, the various, the low class people or the low income group, not the low class people, the low income group people, the workers, the menial job laborers, the unskilled laborers, they prefer to stay in this zone. Why? Because it is very much easily accessible to their job places. So transportation cost will be minimized. And this zone, as I have said, they have got the factories. So, and this is a migrant population zone. Why migrant population? Because you will see in almost every metropolitan areas, you will see there will be a section of the population who will have migrated from either out of the state or out of that area, out of that city, out of that specific state. So they do not have, these people do not have their family with them. They generally stay in a ghetto with the other migrants, and they can stay in very least desirable areas of the society, where you can find almost no hygiene or the area environment is not so much developed. So they can easily manage in those regions, in these regions of decay because the rent is low and it is very near to their places. Now, this is the region where you can find all these things apart from the factories, the petrol pumps, the guest houses, etc. Now, why so? Because this region connects to the CBD region. So people would be going through this region to the CBD region. So there would be petrol pumps to cater to the CBD area. So there will be various land use over here will be such so as to cater to the CBD area through maybe petrol pumps, through car sales or small guest houses. So the guest houses might have people who might have arrived to the city for various official works in the CBD, or there can be students' hostels. Why students' hostels? Because these hostels, because these students might, they will be studying in the CBD area. There may be various education institutions in the CBD area or in the transition zone. So to avail those, they will be staying there. So these kinds of things are seen in this transitional zone. Now, why factory? Because over here, the price, land price is lower than the CBD region. Because it is lower and it is again very close to CBD region, so the manufacturing sector will set up their units over here. Because here they can get relatively greater amount of space by paying relatively lesser amount of money than the CBD area. So they get the lower pay, they get to enjoy staying close to the CBD area. Almost they enjoy all the CBD facilities, but they get to pay lower rents. Now, this is also a region of decay. This is considered as a region of decay. Why decay? I have already told you. Because once upon, this was a thriving area having old structures, but now these structures are no more over there. So what happens? Or the structures are there, but they are old and dilapidated, and no one is really bothered to just trying to make these things into proper dwelling houses. So, and then this has got a high population density of these people, of the migrant population sector, and this also has very poor segment of the society living here. Because it has got very poor segment of the society living here, it has got mainly migrant population, it has got various factories, etc. It is not actually residential. So you can see a very high crime rate, because over here people will be, this is the area where people will be moving in and moving out. So you will find very high crime rate in this zone. Then on, we have the zone 3 or the lower income group zone or the working class zone. Now this region, this working class zone, it is occupied for residential purposes. But who occupies this? This is generally occupied by the working class or by the lower income group. Here the land rates are still lesser. And because it is lesser, various small industries like maybe plastic manufacturing, etc., they are found over here. So this zone, it consists of residential pockets and also factory workers. The factory workers who work in the second zone, or the factory workers who probably work in the various factories, small factories in this zone. Now you are seeing over here, this is the second generation immigrants. This is the second generation immigrants. Now, why over here people living in this zone are second generation immigrants? Why second generation immigrants? The first generation immigrants are staying in the second zone. For the second generation immigrants, generally they have, many of them also have their family with them. Now, when they have their family with them, what happens? And they may be having more spending power. When that is so, they prefer to move out to this transition zone, which has a better environmental condition than the previous two zones, but at the same time, it is much more affordable. It is not so densely populated. It does not have so much of pollution, so much of chaos, but at the same time, it is affordable. At the same time, it is very much easier to go to their workplaces. it is very near to their workplaces, but they get to stay at a reduced commuting cost and a very modest living condition. Now you will find over here large rental houses where even single workers can occupy those places. Next on, we have the zone 4. This is the MIG place. That is the middle income group. So we term it as what? We term it as the white collar homes. Now, the land price over here is much more reduced. Since it is much more reduced, try to remember the diagram which was shown at the start. So it has got much more spacious homes. So the interspace between two homes are much more over here. And because it has got the better income people, middle income group, it has got more spaces, and it is especially a residential pocket. So we have better facilities because we have better residential colonies. So we have better residential facilities in the form of various parks and open spaces, shops, garden, etc. So various facilities are being found in this zone. Now, people living in this zone, they have a better quality of life than the previous 3 zones. And obviously, they work in the CBD region, so they are not factory workers. They work in the various offices, and so they have to commute to their workplaces. We have the zone 5. Now, the zone 5 is the farthest of the various zones, and it is, as you remember from the diagram over there, it is situated in the peripheral area. It is the farthest area from the CBD, and because it is situated in the farthest area, so it has got very high commuting cost to come from that area to the city center, that is the CBD area. Now, that is why this zone has been given as the commuter zone, the name of commuter zone. And generally, very high income group people prefer to stay in this zone because over here the environmental condition is good, almost no pollution. They can afford large houses because the area is, the paying rent of land is much more lower. And they can have a very good quality of life in this zone. Now, this is a bid rent curve. Bid rent curve was not given by Burgess, but of course, his work helped to generate this bid rent curve, which says what? Which says that how much people is ready to pay. Depending upon that, the various sectors are finalized. Now, the value is based on what the profits that are obtained from maintaining a business on that land. Now you see over here the green zone, this is the center of the town, it will have the highest number of customers. And this is thus it is very much profitable for the retail activities. So over here, the land price is the maximum. This land price is the maximum. Next on, we will have the manufacturing, who will pay lesser amount, less for the land. So they are just interested in what? The accessibility of its employees, workers. And so that goods can come in and goods can go out from here to this zone. So they cannot pay so much. So they generally pay lesser than retail, but more than residential. So this is their paying capacity. Based on that paying capacity, this is their zone. And then the rest of the land is taken up by the residential sector. So if we say in brief about concentric zone theory, it was propounded in 1925. Class conscious society. Class conscious society about what? Not the caste system, but class, and this class conscious society was segregated through income. We have lack of transport infrastructure over here. Older buildings are in the city center, and newer buildings, because the city grows from center to periphery, so near buildings at the edge of the city. We have land values, highest land values in the city center, and there is a strong economic and ethnic segregation which we have seen till now. Low income group, they prefer to stay close to the city center, because they lack transportation. And city, according to Burgess, develops on the flat plane with equal access to transport. Now, these are the various criticism, limitations, and criticisms. First thing is that locational aggregation of different firms was not discussed. For example, we have in India, we have various kinds of location aggregation. Like we all know that we have the cloth market. Like for example, Surat is known as the cloth market. Similarly, we have various jewelry market. For example, in Calcutta, we have a place called Bow Bazaar, which is known as a jewelry market. We have various iron markets or Loha Mandi or Loha Bazaar. They are known as such. So these are various locational aggregations. Within a commercial place, we have got various locational ghettos. This has not been discussed by Burgess. Or like, for example, we have the glass market in Firozabad in Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, the various linear pattern of entrepreneurship, like along a roadways, along a railways, that has not been discussed. Like various industries, they develop, or industrial locations, they develop, or industrial patterns, they develop along the main transportation network, be it road or river, etc. So that linear pattern has not been discussed over here. What is common or what may be present in US may not be available in Asia or India, because in India we generally see that people, high income group, the HIG group, they also prefer to stay in the localities close to the CBD, in the various high-rise buildings. And in India, we also see various kinds of mixed zones. Like mixed area, we have the embroidery, the leather works, etc. All various mixed zones. We don't have a definite pattern. Okay, this is only dedicated to this, that is only dedicated to that. So we have a mixed pattern in India. In Asia, we also see that generally it is seen that the ground floor generally it is used for various commercial activities. You might be seeing in your own localities. The ground floor is used for various commercial activities, while the upper floors are used for various residential activities. Or the CBD and the roadsides are fully commercial, while the surrounding area is of the CBD, of that CBD, it is residential. So whereas a part of the CBD is fully commercial, a part of the CBD is also residential. So you see, what is found in US, what is applicable to US is not necessarily will be applicable elsewhere. And what was applicable in 1925, you can't expect that same thing to be applicable right now because it is quite old. And during that time, car ownership obviously was not taken into consideration. Right now, through car ownership, people can stay anywhere. And zones are not clear cut. He has only mentioned, okay, this is a zone, that is a zone, but exactly till what will that zone be? It is not clear cut. Moreover, the CBD size, generally what we find over here right today, in today's world, it is not exactly circular. We can't say that we will have exactly a circular zone. It may be rectangular, it may be irregular, any kind. And then commerce and business, they extend radially along the streets from the CBD. They don't extend only in concentric zones. So, and then we can find that low-grade housing, it can be found in every zone. They can be found in industrial, they can be found in transportation areas. So in every zone, it can be found. And then this theory, it was not appropriate for wholesale trading. But also the edge of the CBDs, the wholesaling, they were most often found adjacent to the sites with maximum railroad availability. Now this railroad availability or various forms of transportation has not been taken into account by Burgess in his theory. So these are the various locational theories or the limitations of the various limitations to his theory. Now we see the sector model. The sector model was given by Hoyt, and as you can see over here, these are the various sectors, which is written as the CBD, the factories, then the low class residential, middle class, residential, etc. So these are the various sectors, and generally if you can see over here, he generally deals mainly with the residential. So the residential has been delineated into low class, middle class, high class, etc. And this was propounded by Homer Hoyt in 1939. He studied 64 cities of US, and then he came out with this. And as you will see later on, or you can see in this diagram also, this is somewhat similar to the Burgess model. Again, the same CBD, again the same zones, that is the factories, that is a low class, middle class, high class. So it is somewhat similar. And again, that same pattern, that circular pattern also exists over here. But the only difference being that over here, the cities, like the previous city, the previous model, they do not develop in the form of rings. As you can see over here, they are not developing in the form of rings. They are developing what? In the form of sectors or wedges. These wedges are coming out from the main city, but they are coming out from the CBD zone. So they are developing in the form of wedges or sectors according to various, like for example, over here, they have the transportation or the maybe resources. So they are developing in the form of regions, in the form of wedges or sectors according to their favorable locations. Now, here he suggested, Homer Hoyt, like few activities, like over here the factories, etc. The few activities, they are radiating out through the main travel link. So over here, maybe the main travel link, maybe the travel link, maybe railway line, the travel link may be a river. So it is developing through the main travel link or along the main travel link, it is developing. And one important thing he said that land use within each sector will remain the same, because according to him, like attracts like. Now this is again the sectors over here. It is very much similar to Burgess theory. The high density, tall buildings, CBD zone. Then you can see over here a river or a road, which can be seen over here. So this develops along a river or along a road. So it is not the distance from the CBD. It is not the distance from the CBD like before, but it is a direction. The direction from the CBD. It is in this direction. The direction of this linear pattern. It is in this direction. So it is not the distance, but it is a direction from the CBD. And also, as you can see over here, it is based upon transportation and access to resources. And transportation and access to resources is causing what? Instead of circles, it is causing a disruption from the CBD theory. CBD theory was circles, but because of transportation, because of resources, it is causing a disruption in the CBD theory, and it is causing development in the form of what? Wedges. So maybe a rail line has developed, so development will be concentrated along the rail line. So like that. Then we see the various components. So the first one is the CBD theory, and CBD theory is what? According to that, it is very much similar to what Burgess has said. So I won't repeat the same thing. So it is very much the same. And just like I had said, according to him, the classes would be similar. That is, land use within each sector would remain the same. Because according to what? The industrial sector would remain industrial, as the area will have the advantage of what? The advantage of railway line or river, etc. So then we move on to this industry. So the industry is what? It is radiating out, it is moving out from the main CBD zone in the form of sectors. And just like I had told before, this moving out may be because of a transport linkage or maybe because of resource. That is why they're developing out. And this zone This area also serves as an area for the residential area for the lower class. Why lower class and why people of the lower class prefer to stay over here, I have already discussed in the Burgess theory. It is mainly economic, mainly to do with economy, and living condition is very bad. Then on we come to the low class residents. In the low class residents, what happens? The low income groups reside, or also over here, it is the environment is not very good. Degradation of environment is found over here. High population density, because all the low class people tend to settle over here because of economic reasons. And so no proper care is given to hygiene, and neither can people afford it, because it is generally found in a sort of a ghetto kind of a thing. So small houses and many people in those small houses. So population density is much more. So in these kinds of low maintenance house, what we see, very poor ventilation, and roads are narrow, and somehow this connects to the industries, and living condition is not very good, but it is okay for the low class residences. Then moving on to the next residences, we find the middle class residence. Again, it is almost the same like the previous Burgess theory. And people over here, this is because it is specially a residential area, so they enjoy better facilities over here. And this is almost the same like the Burgess theory. And over here, people, they are commuters, so they can afford more substantial travel cost, and they can afford better living conditions. Then we have the high class residences, which is found in the farthest zone from the CBD area, and the wealthy people can afford this place because it is quite clean and traffic is minimal, etc. So if we can, in short, about the sector theory, it came into existence in 1939. It again divided the society based on income and status. Housing areas reflect social segregation. Social segregation is not upon caste or religion. Generally in India or in Asia, we find that is on caste and religion. Now, assumption is what? Settlement develops along transportation routes that I have shown you. Towns radiate out from the CBD. Low income and industrial areas lie next to each other, and wealthy people, they choose the best sites. Now coming up to the limitations of the sector. Again, this is an old model, 1939. You can easily understand, and this is 2020. So cities have become much more complex than what it was in 1939. It is a very general rendition. What that I have told you, what was in 1939, obviously we can't find it right now, because cities have become more complex. And complex in the form of residence, complex in the form of commercial activities. And again, whatever was found in US, it is not practical, it might not be practical in Asia or the other parts of the world. Because in reality, he said that one land use, one particular sector is only for one land use. But do we see that? We don't see that. We can't find a single area of the city that is dedicated to a single land use. For example, if it is commercial area, do we find that only commercial areas? We also see that there are residential pockets, there are other pockets also. We may find a small park also there. So it is not a single land use. That does not happen. And right now we have got various urban renewal schemes, like for example, the JNNURM that we have right now in India. So the various urban renewal schemes, those aspects are not taken into granted in the sector model. Now there are various out of town development. For example, the satellite towns. So that has not been taken into account. For example, in West Bengal, we have the Salt Lake area. In the NCR region, we have the Gurgaon Noida region. So those satellite towns have not been considered. Now, if you are thinking what is a satellite town, satellite towns are what? They are very small, self-sufficient municipal areas. And these, you all know what is the meaning of satellite. So It is something like that. From that word only this term has come. So these are self-sufficient municipal areas which are located close to a bigger metropolitan city. And these are self-sufficient in the sense that they have their own offices, they have their own everything. So people don't need to come out of these zones. They can commute to these zones, they have their own commercial activities, own residential activities, everything. So those things have not been taken into account, and this is more for a developed economy. Next on, we move on to the next theory, which is the multiple nuclei theory. And the proponents, the pictures of the proponents are given over here, that is Harris and Ullman. They have given this multiple nuclei theory, and this was given by them, C.D. Harris and Edward Ullman in 1945. Again, this is based on the study of US cities, Seattle and Washington. Now, multiple nuclei. The name only suggests that the cities have got multiple growth points on nuclei, and growth develops, generates from these nuclei. All of you know what is the meaning of nuclei. So growth develops from these. And this model was given by them in their article, which is called The Nature of Cities. And this is applicable, this is more applicable actually than the previous two to the modern cities. Now, here we find the graphical representation. See over here, so this one is the CBD zone. Again, the CBD zone is as was discussed in the previous two. Then this might have acted as a nuclei, and then this nuclei started to grow into a wholesale and light manufacturing. This started as a nuclei of low residences. Then these this number 3, they developed slowly into row residential classes. So like this, the things developed. One interesting factor over here, you can see the industrial suburb, the outlying places, the industrial suburb, the residential suburb over here. There are many industries which maybe because of monetary problem, they don't have space in the inside place, or maybe they want bigger areas. So this place, or maybe they generate more of pollution. So because of those things, they prefer to stay outside of the city area. So they have their own place because of their various problems or characteristics that I just said. So they develop their suburb outside the main zone. So there is some residential suburb. So this residential suburb, maybe they prefer to stay outside of the main zone, maybe because of monetary issues, or maybe they want more open places, etc. Another interesting thing is the OBD, the outlying business district. Just like a central business district, there's an outlying business district. Now this business district is generally developed based for these areas over here. So this region is based for the areas over here, this outlying business district. So maybe this place is catered by people over here. So this is the outlying business district. Next on, we see the factors of nuclei formation. The factors of nuclei formation can be categorized to 4 factors. So what are the 4 factors? Over here, certain activities require specialized facilities. For example, CBD can function only at a point where there is maximum communication, maximum accessibility. There are also certain activities which prefer cohesion. Now, what is cohesion? They prefer to stay close to each other. For example, the clothing industry. The clothing industry requires what? Very strong group of people, a very strong group of, that is, they want low, cheap labor. So because they want cheap labor, so what happens? They will try to develop in densely packed areas, because they can develop in densely packed areas. So why they will develop in densely packed areas? Because they would require cheap labors, and also they would require market. So market will be available to them only if it is densely packed areas. So they can get market also, and they can also get cheap labors through that. Then there are certain activities which is opposite to cohesion, that is, they are detrimental to each other. For example, the heavy class, the heavy industry, and the high class. Obviously, high class people won't allow their neighbors to make a lot of noise. They won't allow themselves to stay at a place where there is a lot of noise, a lot of pollution. So heavy industry and high class residential are not the best of neighbors. So so high class would have their own nuclei, and the heavy industries would have their own nuclei. Then there are certain activities which are unable to pay the rents of the most desirable sites, like the residences of the low income groups. They cannot pay high rents. They might want the areas of the high income group, but they won't be able to give so much high rent. Now, let us see the characteristics in this. So, modern cities are more complex than what has been suggested by the theorists over here. Each nucleus, they acts as a growth point. Growth occurs outward from each nucleus until they merge into one large urban area that has been shown in the diagram. But this theory is, you can see, it is a mixture of Burgess and Hoyt. It also shows that land use attracts more of the same kind. For example, the industrial areas. The industrial areas have got the same kind. Industrial suburbs, the industrial areas, the OBD, they attract the same kinds. It also shows that some land uses may deter the others. That is the theory of cohesion or the detrimental, which has been told to you before. Now, these are the criticisms. Again, we can't say that this is a perfect example for all the cities. It is also various complex. You saw that various kinds of jigsaw fits kind of a thing. Here and there, some OBD here, some districts here, some residences here, some residences in some other places. And again, this may not be applicable to the Asian cities, because they are too much complex with various kinds of cultural, economic, and political backgrounds. Because in Asian cities, in Asia, religion and caste also plays a very important role. Now, the most important thing, is this relevant to today's cities? Well, some of them do have relevance. Many of them don't have relevance. Because of various urban renewal schemes and changes in society, now we see that various high residential areas often exist close to the CBD. Like, for example, the Connaught Place in Delhi. Is it only CBD? No, if you can see there in Connaught Place, you also will have certain residential flats, apartments. There is a limited amount, but you will see that. And in today's cities, you also have the concept of urban sprawl. So through urban sprawl, modern cities, they extend beyond the sprawl areas. So this was in brief about the various models, urban models. And in next class, we will see certain other models. So these are the traditional models. There are also some other models which we will see in the next class.